for joining. I'm Alex Markley. I'm with Markley Bros Entertainment, as you probably know if you have been following my stream or subscribed to my channel, or if you're in my Discord, Twitter, any of that stuff. You probably know about Markley Bros Entertainment. If not, I will give you a quick explanation of what I'm doing here at the beginning. But before I do, I want to just whet your appetite a little bit. What we're going to be talking about today. My plan is to do a VFX breakdown and a quick explanation for what is going on in this scene. And I don't expect you to be able to hear anything. The audio is not really set up yet. We have a lot more work to do. This is not a final render. But this test render just finished the other day, and I was super, super excited to share with you guys what we were doing. So I'm going to play this one more time. So this, again, is a test render, which I'm, work in progress right now on the new Malex Minute episode. And the Malex Minute is a sci-fi comedy show that I've been working on with my family and with my friends for a long time now. We did over 200 episodes of our audio podcast, which featured just a huge number of characters, lots of crazy voices, and just a ton of fun. And we took a hiatus, and I spent about 10 years trying to figure out how to bring that show to the screen. So we did a bunch of work on basically being able to animate, and I'm going to show you here. We did a bunch of work on being able to animate the relevant characters and to do a figuring out how to do video, because none of us really had any experience doing video. I designed some software. You know what? That's not the right link. Should probably know that if I'm going to be live streaming. Designed some software and made it available online for free in terms of, based on an open source license. So you could literally go download the project and give it a try. So all of that has culminated to this project, which is I am trying to make the next Malex Minute episode in the style of a short film that has a whole new level of visual effects and that has a whole new level of immersion and environmental quality. So I want people to, in the past with previous episodes, we've had our cartoon characters come into our world a little bit with live action backgrounds and cartoon characters in those live action backgrounds. We're going to go the other way, and we're going to invite the viewers with this episode to join us in the crazy cartoon world of Snufflefungus and Linus in their hometown of Ohioville. So that to me is really exciting, and I cannot wait to share it all with you. And what I plan on doing with this episode is a little bit different. Instead of going into my bunker and just waiting for a, revelation to finish everything and put it all together and share it with you after it's done, I am inviting all of you to join with me as I actually stumble through the process of making this episode. And I'm basically going to be doing a ton of live streaming and sharing everything as I go. And part of the reason, it's a little bit of the open source vision, right? I want folks to be able to, I've received so much from the YouTube community, from tutorials and from the open source community in terms of software and templates and plugins and add-ons and everything. And I really want to give back. You know, Markley Bros Entertainment is not just an independent studio. We are that, but we're also more. We want to help to drive forward the intersection of art and open source technology. So I want to be involved in that process and invite you all to join me. Okay, so enough with the explanation. Let's go back and take a look at this shot again, if I can find it. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that we're going to talk about today. You know, and this isn't going to be a super long live stream, so hopefully I don't lose anybody from like falling asleep or a coma or anything. But the idea here is Malex, who is obviously played by me, stumbles into an underground sort of a cavernous structure, and he goes wandering into it, and over the course of the episode, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but he will unleash an ancient evil, and it will be pretty, you know, in the vein of the Malex Minute, pretty ridiculous. So there's a couple of things that I want you to take note of here that I'll show you. First off, the camera is actually moving as we go, which is something that we've never done before with a live actor. So we have the camera, the whole camera is moving. We're traveling down a hallway, and I'm actually, you know, walking, and the camera is tracking as I'm going down. So what you don't know necessarily from this is that I'm inside of a 12 by 12 room, and I'm actually walking on a treadmill in the original shot. So as far as a VFX breakdown goes, this is the first plate. This is what we shot in our this is what we shot in one of my in my guest bedroom. We tore everything out and we shot this, and you can see the camera motion is basically on a dolly track. So we have the camera sort of rolling on skates and traveling along and orbiting around the treadmill, and I'm just walking on the treadmill. And so then we're able to translate that. Whoops. We're able to translate that then to this camera motion, which basically in Blender, the camera is still orbiting, but it's also rolling along a track. So as you see that the treadmill, you know, I continue to walk on the treadmill, but basically I'm able in Blender to make it look like I'm walking along the floor. And as a result, have this huge, massive environment, even though we were filming in this like 12 by 12 room. Also, I want to call out, this is not the finished composite. I've got some work to do here to clean that stuff up. There's definitely some more work to do, so I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to imply that this is perfect by any means, but I felt like, you know, it was too good not to share. A couple other things I want to call out here real quick. So the fire, we can talk about. So we can talk about the filming process. We can talk about the Blender camera reconstruction process, and let's talk about fire as well. So there's a lot of fire in this scene. As you can see, there's basically torches that go all along, all the way down this hallway. And, you know, I spent a lot of time working. I tried 3 or 4 different techniques to try to make this fire something that I felt creatively looked like what I was trying to make it look like, but that could also be rendered. And the reason that's important is because, you know, we don't have a lot of money. I have some PCs just sort of stacked in a heap over here with some, you know, really old, like 2-3 generation old GPUs in them. And that's what we're using for rendering. So if I can't get this show rendered, then it will never happen. So if I have this beautiful fire simulation that's like perfect, but takes forever to render, it's effectively, it may as well not exist. So I came up with a, it's not a really complicated process here, but the fire process is a process that, you know, it's a little bit of an industry standard, but I didn't see anything in I didn't see anything in terms of Blender tutorials really talking about how to do the fire. So I want to call out real quick. I see Tyler and Dylan on the stream. Shout out to you folks. Thank you for joining. And I see the questions. I am definitely going to answer questions in a little bit. So throw them in as they come up, and then we'll address them. The latency is a little bit high, so it's not maybe the best venue for like real-time question and answer, but I totally will address those as we go. All right, so we talked about the filming process. We talked about camera reconstruction. The fire, that's something we can talk about as well, because again, I'm really pleased with how this fire turned out, and it turns out it's really not that expensive to render. It's pretty low effort, so even if you don't have a really heavy GPU, you can still render it. Lastly, and this was something that required me to actually bust out the soldering iron. I'm going to zoom in here because I want you to be able to see this. And I'm still tweaking the lighting, so there's still some more work to be done here. But you know, I want you to see so the fire in the environment is casting light onto the walls, but it should also cast light onto Malex. And as you can see, like if you look here, you can see my hair has sort of an orange glow on it. And I'm pretty pleased. You can kind of even see it glowing through my ear there a little bit and glowing around the back of my head. And then here as well, you can see sort of an orange glow around the back of my head that is traveling based on my proximity to the fire. So what I did there, and this, like I said, required me to bust out the soldering iron, so I'm super excited about this. And I will share all of this with you guys, by the way. There's a light board behind me, which you can see actually was casting light on me. And what I did was I literally built this out of NeoPixels and an Arduino and some C code to basically simulate the traveling of the torches past my head as I was walking down the hallway. So I programmed them to be a certain distance apart, and I programmed them to be, you know, adjustable in terms of the speed that they were moving, because there's a point where I'm actually running down the hall. And so you can see this orange light basically, pardon me, this orange light basically cast very directly on my head, and it really helps to sell that extra pizzazz on the scene when during the composite. So let's take a quick jump into Blender. I want to show you how the scene is constructed. And so hey, shout out to Quentin. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to see you, and I am going to be jumping into questions here at the end a little bit. I just want to run through all the main stuff. Oh, I'm not even on the right screen. Here we go, Blender. So I'm going to run through the main stuff that I wanted to share with everybody and then do Q&A after that. So I wanted to kind of show how the scene is constructed. And as you can see, you know, this is very much a work in progress. There's some dirty matte stuff going on down here that needs to be cleaned up. That's not too bad. I'll be doing that later. And, you know, there's some adjustments to some of the texture mapping that I've done. You know, this is a preview render, and it's already, you know, a little bit slow. I would have to load in all my proxy textures in order to make this run more quickly. But one of the things that I think is really interesting about this technique, and I actually learned this technique from Ian Hubert, is the camera reconstruction is the camera reconstruction is actually feeding into the composite literally in the 3D scene. So we have the we have this partially transparent card that has the original of my performance actually texture mapped onto a card in the scene. And then from there, we have a camera, which this is, you know, we have a reconstructed camera, and then we have a final camera that we're actually using for the composition because I'm reframing and zooming in just a little bit. I'm also smoothing out the camera motion a tiny bit. And what's really interesting about this technique is that, holy cow, it actually works. The scaling is correct, the placement is correct, and as long as you're looking at it from the same angle that the camera originally was, then you don't really run into perspective problems. And so the camera can travel down the hallway, the camera can orbit around, and this card just kind of travels along with it, and everything kind of works out. So I can go into a ton more detail in this, you know, at some point, if this is something that you guys want to know more about and want to see, you know, how I did it, and potentially redo or do for yourself, you know, something similar. So I mentioned about the reframing. I'm going to grab this real quick. So one of the things that I made the decision before beginning filming on this project to upgrade to the Blackmagic 6K Pro, which you can see here. And the reason was because I knew that I wanted to be able to do motion tracking based on the stuff in the scene. So I wanted to be able to frame wide and do motion tracking based on all of these markers and based on the green tape and things like that. But also I wanted to be able to zoom in and still have plenty of resolution for the primary subject. So, you know, if I'm cutting in, if I'm cropping in real tight here, then I still have, you know, I can still very easily do a 4K crop and crop out all this crap on the top and bottom, and Blender can use it for motion calibration, and then I can crop it out and we don't have to see it anymore. So this has been a whirlwind tour of this shot, which is, you know, one of the earliest shots that I have put together for the new Malex Minute episode. I am so excited about this episode, and I'm inviting you all to just join me as I put this together. So this series is literally going to be a real-time, basically a development vlog live stream series of me working on this episode, tackling different types of shots, tackling different types of visual effects, all in this sort of style with lots of compositing, lots of CGI, and such. And I want to know what you guys are most interested in seeing. So, you know, I'll jump into questions here in a second. So definitely toss them in. But you know, the idea here is that I'd really like leave me comments and let me know, you know, if you are particularly interested in CGI environments. What am I doing for CGI environments? I'd love to share some of that. If you're interested in Arduino, light rigs or anything like that, what I'm doing there, let me know. And just as we're going through this, I talked about those few different specific things, like what we did to actually capture the shot, what we did to reconstruct the camera motion, the lighting rig, all of that fun stuff, the CGI. Let me know what you specifically want to see, and I'll make sure I touch on it. And some of this source code and stuff like that, I want to make sure that you guys have access to it as well. So just, make sure you're letting me know what you're interested in seeing as I go through this, and I will be delighted to share it with you. Okay. So we had a question from Dylan, which was, does the green tape serve any special purpose? I've seen X's and the like in other behind-the-scenes VFX stuff, and the answer is yes, it does serve a purpose. In my case, because we had kind of a janky setup, it served multiple purposes. I was using green tape to actually tape multiple green screens together, and I was really worried that it was not going to work, but it did kind of work, and it only fell apart after we were done. So that was great. In addition to that, and this is probably more the direction of what you're asking, you'll see like these markers down here. These markers are actually, I actually used these, and I used some of these corners and such as features for Blender's motion tracking. And this will go into Quentin's question as well. He asked, do you have any position feedback from the dolly, or did you just reconstruct the camera position from the video? And so the simple answer is no. I did not have any the dolly was not smart, so we have no position feedback, and it's not motion controlled. A motion control function on the dolly is something that I'm really interested in doing, putting together a stepper motor and being able to move the camera over an arc over some defined period of time. That's something that I'd really like to add. I've purchased parts that are large enough and easily modified enough. Everything's hackable. I don't have a lot of like fragile plastic pieces. So I definitely do intend in putting in like a stepper motor. But part of the problem is with positional feedback is if it's not calibrated correctly, then it will just be another source of bad input that I have to deal with. And this is something that I'll run into with some of the later shots that I've already kind of tinkered with, is the optical image stabilization seems to be introducing basically like a parabolic. So there's a, that's not the right term. There's a spherical lens distortion in the lens that I was using, which seems to be not orthogonal and seems to be changing over the course of the shot, which I think is related to the optical image stabilization that I was using. And so when I'm doing the reconstruction, at the end of the day, every input that I get from the reconstruction is a suggestion, and I am tuning everything by hand for the visual look that I'm trying to do. And you can see, based on the fact that I don't have my feet in this shot, that I was hedging the entire time as to whether or not I would be able to pull off a completely accurate motion track. And it was a good thing that I did, because I'm not pulling off a completely accurate motion track with the equipment that I have. And it's, it's close. It's definitely good enough, but it's not completely accurate. And in the future, when I'm doing this, given how large the frame is and how what the resolution is, I'm probably going to prioritize having a stable lens assembly that does not have optical image stabilization turned on with a higher sharpness, because the lens that I have a couple lenses, and the one that I have that has optical image stabilization isn't super sharp. And And so I think I can get away if I have higher sharpness and reasonably low motion blur, that I can probably do image stabilization in post, and that if I do that instead, that I'll have better luck with motion tracking. So I'm interested, Quentin, if you have any thoughts on that, because you know you're one of my guys, one of my go-to fellows who I mean, I know you made the recommendation of this ATEM that I'm using right now, and it's like, you know, so you seem to always have the line on the cool stuff that's going on. So, all right. So Dylan also mentioned that he'd be interested in seeing more streams about the render process and requirements, using techniques that would look good and render fast. Yeah, thank you for that, because I'm definitely interested in sharing what I did for the torches. It was kind of interesting, I thought. You know, I'm not one to toot my own horn, but you know, horn officially tooted, because I thought I was clever. I thought I was a little bit clever. It wasn't that clever, but I did it, and you know, that's half the battle. So I'm actually thinking, I ended up filming some fire for that and using a video texture based process, but with a little bit of a spin. And so I'm probably going to put up some Blender files and some image textures for folks. I'm not sure yet. I'll be interested to hear what you guys think, if that's something you'd be interested in. I might put those up as like a Patreon supporter reward, something for people to download and tinker with in Blender, because I think that's a ton of fun. All right, so and Dylan said, and the camera technique. Thank you. Actually, you can thank Susie for that, because she just knocked it right out of the park with running the camera. And we had to do some reshoots on this, because I kind of messed it up a couple times. And she was a champ. She showed up like, it was literally like 3 times she showed up, and we redid this. So thank you for that. Better visual. So Quentin suggests, I wonder if you could get better visual tracking if you pair your camera with an IR camera and point emitters in the scene. And so there's actually, there's a few different techniques that you can use. I've seen really good results from Blender using normal optical feature tracking. And the problem that I've run into, I think, has to do with the camera not behaving like a real orthogonal camera. So I'm gonna do some more tests. We do actually have a finale shot, a finale scene, I should say, in this episode. This episode is 20 pages long. This is the longest, most intense Malex Minute episode I have ever written. And there is a finale scene that is going to require some pretty intense multi-layered CGI and photo elements and visual effects. And I'm obviously going to have to get the camera tracking right there. And at 6K, I don't think I need like sub-pixel precision in terms of feature tracking. It's you know, it should be, optical features should be enough, I would think. So anyway, so that was my content for today. I wanted to show you guys this scene because even though it is not finished, I am happy with it, and I'm really excited to share with you guys the process. I wanted to hear, you know, what you guys are most interested in. You know, are you most interested in the you know, the shooting process and the equipment that we used and how we did it? You most interested in the CGI, the Blender, the reconstruction, compositing, stuff like that, or the hardware hacking? You know, the lights and trying to put together like an animated, you know, animated light in the background and stuff like that. Arduino soldering, fun jazz. You know, let me know what you're most interested in, and I'm more than happy to share, because like I said, I really want this whole process to be transparent and for you guys to just be on the journey with me. So that said, that's my whole presentation. Oh, here we go. Oh, and Thundercrunch says the answer to all of those is yes. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that, because these are all things that I would love to share with you. So let me know what you think in the comments. And you know, the replay will be available here. So you know, if you didn't catch us live, let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe, and there will be more to come. So thanks everybody for joining us live. Tyler, Dylan, Quentin, and Thundercrunch, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much, and have a great evening. We'll see you soon.